Today's guest is the creator and owner of Novoa Atelier. He is a L'Oréal professional and an instructor who gives advice to some of the most prestigious salons and stylists in the world. He is to hair what Michelangelo is to painting. Please welcome to Inside Art Head, the artist, Carlo Novoa. Greetings, everyone, and thanks for joining the Inside Art Head podcast. It's here we'll explore the inspiration, motivation, process, and fulfillment of creating art. I'm your host, Roni Zulu, bringing you inspirational stories from artists around the world. Well, Carlo, thank you for being on the show and allowing us to get inside your art head.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege and an honor to receive this invitation. Thank you so much.
Oh, wonderful. What I first want to do for my audience and listeners is give them a little bit of background on Carlo and myself. Some 15, maybe 20 years ago, I had outgrown my current shop. I needed a bigger shop to hire more artists and keep up with things. And it's really hard to do that because when you go somewhere, back then tattooing wasn't accepted as it is now. And most landlords wouldn't want to rent to someone who's a tattoo artist. And I saw this really nice place and I was looking in the window. And once again, I'm thinking, well, like before, we'll see if this person will rent to me. And I meet Carlo. And Carlo was so generous, he went to the landlord and told him, no, this guy, he's good. Get him in here. So if any of you have ever been tattooed by me, you need to thank Carlo because he made sure that I got that shop and I could keep doing what I'm doing. So it's just a pleasure for me to be able to sit here and catch up with you today, Carlo.
Thank you, my brother. You know, it was such a huge thing because what Zulu's leaving out was that I already had seen Zulu. I saw him on a TV show that he was on. I believe it was either TLC or um, Discovery. It was one of those channels, and they were you were part of a segment, and your segment was like a sacred marksman. And I remember watching it and going, I'm gonna wait till the end of the show and then get his information and go see this man. And I fell asleep because I was watching the show on like while I was lying in bed. Then I drive by down La Brea. I see you at a door. I go back and they're like, no, he's not here anymore. And I was like, what is going on? And then you show up next door. I'm literally with a client and I go, I have to stop what I'm doing right now. My client thought I was going insane because I ran out. I was like, I know you. And so it was like, whoa, okay, hold on a second. So it's one of those things. I just wanted to share that little tidbit because it's one of those things where it's those moments in life that continue to remind me how life is always conspiring on my behalf and never against me. You know, life's like, trust me, you'll get to meet him. I'm just creating the right moment for that to happen, says life, you know?
And what a great moment that was. Oh, Carlo, let's talk about some similarities that you and I have in what we do. Myself being a tattoo artist and you being a hairstylist, our canvas is a living canvas when it comes to that. Have you come to find that what you do can tend to transform people more than just physically?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I don't say this out of ego, Zulu. I say this out of just my experience and just being in the industry for as long. One has to commit to that level of work that transforms people's lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like one has to step up to that. You can't just do that and then work like a technician. You can't just say that's what I do and not be interested in connection, right? Because what I realized, and it took me a bit, and it took me relating, being in industry and connecting with people to realize that I wasn't just in the hair cutting and hair coloring business. I was actually in the connection business. And the moment I got that, that's when it all clicked. I was like, oh, now don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean that a client's going to be like, oh, his conversations are great. His color work sucks and his haircuts are terrible. But my God, can he tell a story? It's not that either. You know what I mean? But there has to be a level of connection so that you are more interested in the being than you are in what you're getting out of it as far as like just the payment, right? Like you got to be interested in, I want to I want to assist here in a change.
Hmm. And you have to really be in touch. It's just akin to what I do when I hear you speak about this, because you have to be in touch with what that person needs slash wants. And there has to be some connection in, well, it also has to be what you are willing to offer.
Yes.
Because I know in my business, there's sometimes people who would request something that, for whatever reason, I wasn't willing to offer. And I
Yes.
realized I am not the match for you, and it would be a disservice for both of us for me to accept a client that I didn't feel was a match. Have you had that kind of experience as well?
You know what's so interesting? Yes. And it actually just happened recently, like literally on Friday,
Ah.
which is so interesting, fascinating. And I've been doing this now 30 plus years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe that these are those moments where life honors your word, right? Because we speak of being of integrity and we speak of I want, I'm more than just the dollar amount that's placed in front of me. And it's all great words and life goes beautiful. Here's an opportunity for you to honor what you said. So this young lady comes in and she had challenges with people coloring her hair, that her hair was breaking in certain areas. It was really under a lot of distress. And she had booked for a big appointment, both time wise and financial. And we had not met. She was referred by another client. I would say 98% of my work is referral, and I prefer it that way. And so she comes in, and I'm looking through it, and I'm talking to her, and I said, I have to be completely honest with you. I go, you're someone that I would turn away, right?
Mm.
And here are the reasons why. And I explained to her, and what was so fascinating was that this wasn't the first time she'd gone somewhere and someone said, no, I won't touch your hair, right? What it was she'd had experiences where she had not realized, wow, this person actually cares for my well-being. She said the first time that happened, she was really angry, right? She was like, I don't understand and why and blah, blah, blah. And then after going to people who were like, okay, let's try it, and messing up her hair more, she was like, oh, wait a minute. That
Mm-hmm.
guy didn't just want to do it out of not being lazy or not wanting to or not wanting the money he was going to get paid for it. He was doing it out of caring for my well-being. And like I said to her, I said, my business card, I said, all that has is the information of how to get a hold of me. It has my address and my phone number. Nobody looks at the business card and goes, ooh, the stock of paper they use is really amazing. I bet you their haircuts are great there. Like nobody does that,
No.
right? Nobody says, oh my God, look at the font. This font is gorgeous. I bet you their color work is beautiful. I said, you are my business card. I said,
Mm-hmm.
so you and I are about to enter in a relationship where we're both co-creating.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the relationship you want to go into with someone who's now going to do your hair, I'm that person. And if not, I'm not, you know? And she literally left there hugging me and praising me and thanking me because she's like, well, then what do you suggest? And she had long hair, and I was like, I suggest we cut most of this off. Like, why
Mm-hmm.
are you holding on to this beyond the fact that it's long? Like, what else is it doing for you? So I start to believe, Zulu, that's what I'm saying, you're committed because you start to bring people face to face with their belief system, face to
Mm-hmm.
face with even like thought patterns that no longer serve them, right? Because you literally have 6 inches of hair that is burnt, that is dry. Tell me, besides I like my hair long, why are you holding on to that? Like, what does that represent for you? And they were like, oh, you know what I mean? So you get to really step into that if that's what you're committed to do.
I really appreciate what you said that I've never thought about before in the world of hair cutting and styling. When you would ask someone, why are you holding on to that hair?
Yeah.
You've had this long hair, and of course they might have good reasons, like why they've always had long hair and why they love it. But I would imagine a lot of people have never asked them why, because we all
Absolutely.
know why
And,
is
and
the question.
that's it. And the thing is that it's not it's an inquiry. It's not a question. I'm not
Mm,
looking to judge you. I want to open up a conversation, right? I'm not saying that out of judgment. I'm not like
hmm.
and I let them know that like I'm not judging you for it. I'm inquiring because then it would give me a better understanding as to who you are, right? And so
Exactly.
then they're like, oh, it's it's my belief system. Women should have long hair, like whatever their idea is, right? Then they start to go, oh wow. I remember this one lady once. She wanted just again really long hair, and by no means do I love just cutting people's hair off. That's not the point. She had really long hair, and I said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "What is it about your long hair that you like it at the length that it is?" And she goes, "My husband likes it long." And I said, "Beautiful." I go, "What does he do with it?" And she goes, "What?" I go, "Your husband likes your hair long and asks you to maintain it at a length that he likes. So what does he do with it to show you what like how he loves it? What does he do? Does he help you wash it? Does he help you style it? Does he help you dry? Like what how does he show that he
Hmm.
loves your hair long, which is why you keep it long? How does he show you that? And I have to tell you, Zulu, it was so funny, right? Not at the moment. It's I think about it now. It was so
Hmm.
funny because she looked at me, she goes, "Oh my God, that MF doesn't even touch me." Like she literally said that. She
Wow.
was like, that MF didn't even touch me. And I was like, okay, so then now tell me, let's have that conversation again.
Hmm.
Right. So to the point, Zulu, that so we still did the trim. She still was like, it was a lot for her to handle. Right.
Hmm.
And I understand. I saw some people go, no, no, no. So we'll do what we're gonna do because you have to walk in here and go, you know what? Screw this, I'm done. Let's take it off. So that
Hmm.
even if your best friend goes, "Oh, it's too short," you'd be like, "Really, girl? Because next week I'm going shorter, even." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be to that point. I go, "So I'm not going to do it if you're not ready, right? Because then I'll be the one to blame." 2 days later, her husband called me. The lady's
Oh.
husband that I said, "What does he do with it?" 2 days later, he called me and he goes, "Do me a favor." He goes, "The next time my wife comes in, he goes, cut her hair off."
Cut it off.
He goes, "Cut it off. Tell her not to ever listen to me again."
Oh man, I love that how um, what you do when you deal with people's physicality can make them look inward and not be
Yeah.
only concerned with the physical. That is so great. I'm going to jump into blowing your horn right now because you won't, but I will. I don't care if you've ever had your hair styled at any point in your life, you know who L'Oreal is. And Carlo has worked with and for L'Oreal. Carlo, if you would, could you tell us, um, first of all, that is an achievement. What led up to working with L'Oreal, and what position did you hold there?
So I work with L'Oreal Professional now. It's interesting. We had a big conference in February, and I got an award. I've been with the brand now for 33 years, right? So they gave me
Hmm.
this award of recognition for 33 years. And what's really interesting, what led to it, is I went on my own. I opened up a private studio, and I was looking for color brands because prior to that, I was working for other salons, and one salon carried X brand, and the other salon carried Y brand, and the other salon carried that brand. And so I would have 3 clients on this brand, 4 clients of that brand, 6 clients of this one, da 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 da. And so I was working, had my private studio, and a sales consultant, an educational sales consultant, came by with a flyer and said, "Oh, L'Oreal Professional is offering a 1 day color extravaganza show day education at the Universal Sheraton here in Universal City, California." And I said, "Oh, you know what? That sounds like a good idea. Let's go." And I paid for my assistant and I both to go. I went, and what I really liked was that the artists who were standing there on stage working, I could hear that it wasn't like I'm reading off a script, so I have to tell you this stuff is good. They were literally speaking from a place that if they gave me something else side by side this, I would still use this. Like I could hear that. And
Hmm.
so when I was done, when the program was done, I went to their sales table and I said, "Look, this is what my situation is. I would love to bring an educator into my private suite and give myself and my assistant a class. I want you to pretend like I don't know anything about color, and I want you to just come in and tell me about your brand, right? Blah 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 blah." So that happened. Young lady comes in, and I had done private education before. Private means that I was a freelancer, like this company would hire me, that company would hire me, that kind of stuff, through word of mouth. My pretending I didn't know about color lasted about 5 minutes, because then it's almost as if you, Zulu, with another amazing, great artist, painter like yourself, or tattoo artist, started talking. After a while, you'd be like, "I can't pretend I don't know this," and you would start jumping in there. You know what I mean? Given, yeah. So that started to happen, and I shared with her that I had done some education in the past, and that's where that ended. Next thing I know, I didn't know this. She related to her manager, saying, "Hey, I met this guy. I think he really would be great for the team, right? For the educational team." Her manager then called his manager, and so forth and so on. That they started courting me and coming out for me. And seriously, not out of place of ego or anything, but at the time, I had a really great gig that I was flying back to New York with clients who were working on a film, right?
Hmm.
So when they were trying to reach out to me, I wasn't reaching out to them right away, but it wasn't out of like, "Oh, I want you to fight for me." It was like, I'm traveling right now with work. I have my private studio, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, her boss came, and I was like embarrassed because I was like, "Wow, I don't want you to think I'm playing hard to get. This is what's happening." I literally, they said, "Can you send a headshot and a resume?" I had no headshot at the time, Zulu. I literally sent a Polaroid picture, right?
Oh, wow.
A client of mine helped me put my resume together. She worked at a firm of some kind, and I started, like they say, like literally from the bottom. I mean, I started,
Wow.
you know, uh, giving product knowledge classes. You go into salons and you're talking about the hairspray and the gel and the this. And what I really realized, what I connected with, was that I loved education. I got that,
Uh-huh.
and because I actually thought I was going to be either second grade or third grade teacher. I actually thought in sixth grade that's what I was going to be. So what I found interesting was how life was bringing me back to a place where now I was like, "Wow, look at me educating. Isn't that funny? Different format, but I'm educating." And so I continued to travel up the ranks, and became a local artist, a national artist. And then I become an international artist with L'Oréal Professionnel. So I've done work both nationally and internationally, right? And now my work has expanded outside of just the color and styling arena to actually personal development programs and motivation and coaching and corporate trainings. And so it's just really amazing how one yes will lead you to so many other things.
Wow. That's just amazing. Being true to yourself and following your path, that path opened up in so many directions.
Yes.
Let's go back even before that story. I'm sure myself and my listeners and viewers would like to know, how did he even get into picking up a pair of scissors and a brush
Mm.
and coming at someone's head? I mean, did your sisters and brothers need a haircut? So you said, okay, sit down in the kitchen. I'm going to cut you. How does that start? Because I know for me, I'm a little kid. I pick up crayons and things and I start drawing. How about you?
You know what's so interesting, Zulu, right? I'm going to go backwards to get to the front, because now I realize how life says you have a path,
Mm,
and I will put the dots, you just connect them, right? And don't worry about it. You just say, life gives you enough information just so that you could say yes. And then that would lead you to the next yes. Because if you said yes, knowing the whole story, where I was in consciousness at that moment, it was way too big for my mind to get. Like I would have been like, "No, that's no." So
mm,
how did I get started? Is I grew up in the '80s, right? I went to junior
mm,
high school during the era of Boy George and Culture Club and Duran Duran and Spandau Ballet and Flock of Seagulls and all of these, Adam Ant and all of these people who we were now in junior high school, starting to see them express themselves with their hair and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
mm,
But I grew up in Inglewood, California, so I didn't have the money for the gels and the this and the that. So then a friend of mine found out that punk rockers would do their Liberty spikes with Knox unflavored Jello. That you could go to the grocery store and buy it, right? Because it was a transparent gel. You just didn't put it in the fridge, and it would become the consistency. So you would put that in your hair. You would use a brush and the blow dryer. The only thing was wherever it landed, that was it. It wasn't like hairspray where you could move it around and keep playing with it. It's like you better like have a hand that you know that style is gonna come out and then leave it. Because there would be some times, Zulu, where like a hair would be out of place and I would grab it and I would pull it out. Because there was no like let me wet it and style it back up. Like it was crazy. And so what was interesting is that teachers, like, when they would have like Spirit Day, they would have like crazy hair day or whatever. And I would always win those kind of awards. And it got to the point where teachers would say to me in seventh, eighth grade, what would you do to my hair if you could? And I was like, wow, well, that's weird, right? Or a teacher, I remember, I'll never forget a teacher was reading a newspaper, was doing homeroom. We were doing like some self-study. And she goes, hey, Carlo, she goes, here's something. She goes, a salon is having a contest. They want the readers of the newspaper to name their salon. And if they pick the reader, you'll get like hair done, blah, blah, blah. So it was things like that, right? So that kind of started gearing me in that direction. I go to high school. And in high school, I joined the drama department, right? And this is Hawthorne High, again, small school in the suburbs of Los Angeles, also known as the inner city, as the hood. And so it's not like we had a strong drama department. We were not like Beverly Hills High School or Fairfax High School. But at that time that I was in, the drama department was really strong. It was a really strong drama department because of our teacher and the other classmates that were there. And so little Hawthorne High School starts to win little national and local competitions. And I'm part of that team that's winning those things. And so for the first time, the city of El Segundo, or Hawthorne, or the school board, decided they were going to put some money back into the school, and they were going to choose one student from the drama department and send them to the New York School of Arts. And each teacher was going to pick their first, second, and third choice. And that's how they were going to figure out who wins, right? And our drama teacher says to me, I think you're going to win, right? I think you're, and I'm like the newest to the program, right? Mm. But already like at almost at the end. And I said, if I win, I said, I'm going to reject it. I'm going to turn it down. And he was like, wait, what? Right?
Yeah.
And at the time, Zulu, there was a couple of factors. And this is, I understand now what it means when people, all of us, when we say representation matters, right? Mm. Because at the time, it was Ricardo Montalban from Fantasy Island. Yep. We saw Eric Estrada in Chips. Mm-hmm. And I think Raul Julia, who was in some movies, But other than that, there wasn't a very positive representation of brown people, let alone black and brown people. You were either a drug addict, a gang member, a gardener, just something. So I said to my teacher, I was like, so I go to New York, right? And I go to the New York School of Arts. And I come back, what, I'm an actor? And then what, I'm going to play a gardener? Like I'm going to play, a drug dealer, a cholo, a gang member, no, like I don't want to feed into that. Because I remember making such a big deal one day, we're doing an improv class and we're all vegetables at the grocery store, right? And so, with improv, they give you a scene and you just act it out. And he goes, the scene is that you guys are in the refrigerator area, right? And so I go, okay, great, right? So I go, ooh, guys, it's cold in here. And the teacher stops me and he goes, oh, I like that. He goes, but can you say it a little bit more like, oh my God, guys, it's cold in here. And I was like,
oh, no.
And I go, because I'm the pepper? So the pepper, that's how they would sound. I go, what about the radish? I go, how does the radish sound? What accent does the radish have? What about the carrot? How does the carrot say I'm cold in here? And he was like, okay, Carlo, do it your way. You know what I mean? Like I've always been that person, right? So I feel that it was part that, Zulu, and then part the fact that I didn't have a supportive family, right? That they would watch me around the house rehearse the things that I was competing. I was competing nationally. And, if my brother would play a soccer game, I mean, they'd be making like food and ready to go that, at the field to see where, and me, it's like nobody would come to my events. So I also believe that there was a part of me that if I would have had a supportive family that says, so what? So maybe you'll be the first Latino to break that mold and you'll play the doctor and you'll play the teacher and you'll break out of those roles. But I didn't have that. So I believe that's why I leaned more into the no, there's no representation, which was true. But again, I think that if I would have had that family that says, you're going to be the one then, right? So when I was done with school, I remember coming home and I was like, okay, what else am I good at? And, or what else could I
Mm.
do? And I remember grabbing the yellow pages and literally just like that. There was no, I tell people, sometimes we think that the room's gonna get light and this angel is gonna come down, right? And in one hand is gonna have a blow dryer and another hand a pair of scissors, and it's gonna go to beauty school, and I'd be like, oh my god, that's my calling. I'm set up for life. No, you know what? For me, it looked like I walked into uh, my mom and my stepdad's bedroom because the only phone that was in the house, it was actually in their bedroom, right? So if
Mm.
we needed to make a call, it wasn't in the kitchen or in a neutral place. No, it had to be in their room, right? So I remember going in the room, grabbing the yellow pages, and my biggest criteria for beauty school was one that was close to the house. Like that's literally what I did. But what I understand now, Zulu, is that life will speak to you in a way that it knows you will understand.
Mm.
And at that moment, that's how I could understand it. That's how I could hear life going, grab a yellow pages and look for a school near here because you can't take the bus, blah, blah, blah. And that's how it started. And I believe that now because had someone said, oh, Carlo, there's going to be some great things that you could do. You're going to be traveling nationally. You're going to be doing this. I'd have been like, oh, yeah, that's a no. No, 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 no. That's too much for me where I'm in consciousness. So I feel that life spoke to me in a way that it knew that I would hear it, that it would just look like, go to your parents' room, open the yellow pages, look for a school, and let's start there. And then I'll lead you little by little.
Okay. That's incredible. That's really trusting yourself and trusting the universe. I really like that. But what about those times where we all run into self-doubt? I don't care how confident you are in yourself. Self-doubt can creep in. How do you deal with that? Is it easy to let it come and go? What happens? Carlo might be
I think
doubting
what
himself
happens
today.
is
So what
is
happens?
yeah, what happens is being aware of it, right? And now, when I go do trainings, I talk to people about that, right? So I went through an apprenticeship program, and in our world, Zulu, in the hair industry, in the beauty industry, and this is not to discredit any other brands or anything like that, but the Vidal Sassoon methodology of haircutting is literally the staple because there was no haircutting system prior to that one. Like that's just
Mm.
history. That's why Vidal Sassoon is revered. That's why people are fighting for him to be knight. I think he's knighted already, but they want him in the Euro or something like that because literally, so fascinating story, right? So prior to Vidal Sassoon, we were just doing like the teasing and the backcombing and the hairstyles like that, all beautiful stuff, right? But what happens? World War II happens, right? And buildings are being blown up, this, that, and the other, right? And all of a sudden, new architecture starts to come out, right? And we get the mid-century modern, and we start getting these different geometric shapes. And he looks and he says, "Wait a minute." He goes, "We are life is changing. Like we're literally seeing, architecture change, and we're still going to be cutting hair the same way. I mean, doing hair the same
Mm.
way." So he created precision hair cutting. I mean, to the point where it's like it's an art form, right? I went through that training, and people who have been in the industry will tell you to go through the apprenticeship program of Vidal Sassoon training. It is intense, and it's 2.5 years, right?
Oh.
And we would have model classes every Wednesday. One Wednesday would be a haircut class, and one Wednesday would be a color class. Because then at the end of your training, you chose which genre you wanted to specialize in. Were you going to be a hair cutter or a hair colorist? In that type of world, you don't do both. Obviously, there's
Mm.
generalists who do both. I do both now.
Hmm.
Um, anyways, training was intense. Classes. You bring live models. It was so intense that they were like, you have 2 times to not have a model. By the third time that you don't have a model, you don't call us and say I don't have a model. You call us and say, when do I come pick up my check? Like it was like
Okay.
that. And it was no meanness about it. It was just like, we have a standard, and you have to decide if you want to live up to that standard. Because we're not coming down to you to go, well, okay, no. This is why we run how we run, right? So I go through the training. After that, after the 2.5 years, you do what's called a soiree. And a soiree means that you're gonna bring 10 models. There's 8 classic haircuts from which all of the haircuts have stemmed from. You do 8 classic haircuts, 1 men's haircut, and a like an avant-garde, let's just say, right? Then other artistic directors from other salons come and they literally grade your work. Like they literally go through your haircuts, everything, like your models are done, and then they get together and say he's really good. He just needs more sharpening with, like, let's say round graduation. He needs more sharpening with this. So then the owner would say, you're doing great. We need 4 more models of this, and then you'll go on the floor. So that's how intense it was, right? So when you get to the floor, that client sitting in that chair won't know if it's day 1 or year 10 of your technical skills. That's how trained you are. But what I didn't know is that I was trained technically, not mentally. So I was scared. So I would hold a pair of scissors in my hand, and my hands would literally shake because I wasn't mentally prepared. I was technically prepared, but I was not mentally prepared. So all of that self-doubt happened so early on, thank God, in my career, that it was part of my growing process, right? It was part of me just, my hand shakes. Like, I don't know what the fuck to do. Oh, pardon my French, but my hand shakes. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So literally, and I'm cutting somebody's hair and I'm watching my hand shake, and I would start to freak out more because I was like, oh my God, that person knows my hand is shaking. So for me, Zulu, I learned how to deal with that early on, right? That now, that's one way that I give back when I'm doing trainings, is that I remind the educators and the trainers who are training young talent to say to them, remember, you can't just train them technically, you got to get them mentally ready to be on the floor. Because stuff's going to happen anyways, right? Challenging people are going to show up in your chair. So you're not going to prepare for everything, but give them some kind of mental preparation so they can deal with those senses of, like, what if I'm not good enough? What if this person doesn't like what I do? How do you handle that? You know?
Now, handling that kind of sets my head wanting to know, have you ever been in a situation where, let's say you were employed by someone and they put a model in front of you and they wanted you to be a hairstylist that you are not because they thought this is what we want on camera? Let's talk about integrity. I think you once told me a story about
Yes. You know,
the show wanting you to be someone, and you were like, in the end, that's not who I am. Talk to me about integrity.
Yeah. You know, Zulu, integrity for me, it's one of those things that will assist you to just continue to move forward in your own life so that you don't leave yourself behind, right? And I got a really great shot. I was part of a segment in a beauty show in a network called Style Network. And this part of the segment was called makeovers. It was like almost like on the spot makeovers. And the segment on the show was doing so well that they wanted to create its own show about this. And ambush makeovers. So the whole concept was that we were going to grab somebody from the street and be like, we're going to give you a makeover and you're going to come with us. But of course, in the TV world, we spoke to the person for 45 minutes, convinced them that they were going to be okay, make them feel good. And then we reshoot it again by that one moment where they're like, okay, I'll do it, right? So that the audience goes, look how they just ambushed her and took her inside. So there's this one lovely lady from Australia. I'll never forget. She was an engineer. Beautiful. I mean, just like this gorgeous, raw, natural beauty, this gorgeous, beautiful, wavy red hair, no makeup, beautiful, milky skin with some freckles, thick eyebrows. I mean, she was just a beautiful, natural woman. And she was, no, I'm an engineer. And so we convinced her, we go, please, we're going to make you feel good. This is going to be great for you, blah, blah, blah. She finally says yes. So you're in makeovers, usually it's makeup, hair, then wardrobe, right? And then they show the grand finale of the person. So she's getting her makeup done with this woman who is the makeup person for the pilot of this TV show. And I'm in the back with the director, and we're watching on the monitor as this is taking place. And so the lady asked her, she goes, well, when you put your blush, where do you put it on? And she goes, remember I told you guys like I don't wear blush, da da da. And she starts to berate her. She's like, you don't wear blush. She's like, oh my God, blah, 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 da da da. And the director
Mm.
standing next to me going, yes, oh, I love it, good. And I'm going, wait, what? This is what we're
Oh, they
doing?
wanted the
We just told
drama.
her we were not going to make her feel bad, right? So this keeps going on through her segment. Now it's my segment, right? And I go in and I go, first of all, can I just tell you how beautiful your hair is? I go, you've got this gorgeous wave in your hair. I said, all you actually need is a really gorgeous haircut that'll frame your face. And I'm going to show you how naturally you could really use those waves and do a modern version of Veronica Lake, right? The director goes,
Mm.
cut, right? She comes in, she goes, Carlo, she goes, I love it, right? She goes, now I want you to do this. And I go, okay. She goes, I want you to look at her and from the top of her head to the bottom of her feet go, oh, girl, your hair is a mess. And yeah. And I was like, excuse me? And she literally showed me, like with her finger. And she did this whole wave. And she's like, I want you to like, just literally all the way from the top to the bottom and go, oh, girl, your hair's a mess. And I looked at her and I said, and I go, no. And she goes, what? And I go, no. I go, I'm not going to do that. I said, she already went enough through in the first segment. We told her we were going to not make her feel good. This was about boosting her self-esteem, making her feel good. And I'm going to berate her about her hair? I was like, yeah, no, I'm not the one. And she
Mm.
goes, well, she goes, let's just shoot one that way, but we won't use it. And I was like, I mean, I was
Yeah,
like,
right.
really, ma'am? I was like, look, I'm not a veteran of the TV world, but I know how that works. We'll just shoot it, but we're not going to use it. You know what I mean? And I said, no. I said, either we shoot it this way, the way that I'm doing it. I could stand here. I go, and I'll wait till you bring the next stylist who will replace me, right? And then you guys continue
Mm.
shooting. She goes, there is no other stylist. She goes, we're shooting the pilot today. And I was like, well, then it has to be the way that I do it because I'm not going to, because people who, imagine you watching at Zulu and you watching me berate this lady. You'd be like, what the hell happened to Carlo? Like,
Yeah,
you know what I
that
mean? And
would
so for me, it
be
was that, but
terrible.
more it was like, I just couldn't do it. And needless to say, I never got the call back for the pilot, but it's all good, you know?
Awesome. Integrity. It's all that I have, and I'm
That's
sure
it.
you're the same. And I can't give that away.
That's
And
it.
I'm glad you didn't. And I'm sure that young lady is glad that you didn't uh, release your integrity for what they wanted, because I'm sure she probably watched what was going on with you, and I bet she took something away from that,
Mhm.
something positive.
Yeah, I think so.
So,
I could see it in her face, Zulu. I could see it in her face and the
yeah.
way that she looked at me. Like she was like, wow, thank you. You know, I could see it. I could see this relief. Because for a moment, she was like kind of like on pins and needles going, God, is this guy going to do it too? Like, you know what I mean? Like she was like wondering where I was going to go with it. And when I stood up and said, absolutely not, she just like relaxed.
I love that. Um, Carlo, I would like to just touch just for a minute. I happen to know that you are also a life coach. Does that cross over a little bit with having someone in the chair having their hair taken care of?
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, for me, all the time, Zulu. And this is when I have to tell you that connection comes in because, including that, I always have the best intentions. I'm not for everybody. Meaning,
Mm-hmm.
some person's like, look, I don't want to get into what's going on inside, cut my hair, and that's the end of the story, right? And it's like, great, but, you know, I feel that it's also a responsibility of mine to make you aware, right? Just like with that young lady on Friday, where I was like, but what does 6 inches of burnt hair mean to you? Like, why are you
Mm-hmm.
holding on to 6 inches of hair that are little? I mean, and you could see it. I'm not making this up, like, because I showed her with the mirror so she could see it herself, right? I was like, what does that symbolize to you that you're holding on to that, including the fact that visually you could see this hair is dead? I said, it's like a plant. I go, think of a leaf of a plant. I said,
Mm.
if the end is crispy and dry, I don't care how much you water that plant, that end needs to go. It's like, it's not going to just
Mm-hmm.
refresh itself, right? It's dead. It has to be cut off so new could grow. And so so it crosses over because I put people face to face with themselves. And I
Mm.
put people face to face with perhaps sometimes belief systems that they weren't ready to look at.
Wow. Awesome. Well, Carlo, one thing I would like for you to do, if you could tell our viewers and listeners where they can find you online and learn more about you, and who knows, if they're lucky, like my wife has been, have their hair styled by you. Where can we find you?
Thank you, Zulu. So on Facebook, I'm under Carlo Novoa. On Instagram, I have two pages. I've got my motivational and inspirational page, which is lit from within, all one word. And then my L'Oreal and then my salon page is Novoa, which is my last name. Novoa underscore Atelier is my salon page. So you can always find me there. DM me if you come across one or the other and you haven't found the other one, but you want to DM me. You can always send me a DM there, or you could always send me a DM also on Facebook as well.
That's awesome. I'll make sure we put all of that information in the show notes. And Carlo, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure for me to catch up with you, but more so to be able to present you to the public so they can see what a wonderful, caring person you are and how much you have to offer. So thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much, my brother. And thank you for creating, in a world of so many podcasts, it's amazing to see and to be part of something where you could feel that it's literally of service and how do you serve the artist community. So thank you for doing that, my brother. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. And to all my listeners and watchers out there, if you've enjoyed this show, please tune in to some of the other shows to see some of our other interesting guests. And until the next time, be well.